this. I'm sorry. I actually almost forgot to do this. So let me start recording this so everybody else gets the benefit of the conversation.
Hey, Tim.
As I was saying,
my class just started. I can't miss this.
Oh yeah, and guys, please do me a favor. If there's talking in the background, please mute your microphone so I don't hear it in the background, because everybody hears it and it sounds terrible. Okay, so maybe you could mute it, and then if I call on you, you can unmute it and talk to me. How's that? Is that okay?
That works.
Yeah. All right, so at any rate, what I was trying to say to you is that when you work on any kind of assignment, usually you're going to be working with more than one person. In this particular case, since you're in a classroom, you're working with me. So I'm the one that's kind of playing the role of all the other people that you might be working with when you are producing something. So I basically throw at you my critiquing of the particular piece that you're working on, and what you do is evaluate what I'm telling you to do and go in there and do something about it. That's why I'm saying to you, I mean, I've had people that have handed me something that I thought was so well done right from the get-go that I basically gave them a full credit on it. But I still usually will say something about the project. If I don't find anything really to fix on it, which is not the norm, I don't basically tell them to fix anything. But I would say maybe out of the entire class, I only get like one maybe or two people that do something, and those people generally have some past experience with the program, so that's why that's happening. Generally, I don't expect that to happen with the majority of people, because do any of you have any heavy experience with Illustrator so far?
No.
No. So you see what I'm saying? Don't take me the wrong way. It's what I expect from students who are first learning something. There was a day, and it might have been back in 1986 or 1987, where I first started learning these programs. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't operate the programs any more than you guys could. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I had many years of experience as a graphic designer prior to working on Adobe programs. So it's just the way it is. And I mean, you're working with a mouse, and the mouse is something which is pretty foreign to people. So, you know, and I would imagine that none of you really have a pen, a tablet, right? None of you have a pen.
I do.
Hey, there you go. Ginger got is it any easier for you?
When you're doing the paintbrushes and the blob tool, it works great.
Okay, all right.
As for the pen tool, I use my mouse.
All right, you do. So what? Oh, so in other words, with the project so far, you haven't really taken advantage of the stylus with these projects.
I did on the zebra. I did.
Oh, you did a zebra?
Yeah, when you did the.
Okay, yes, I remember now. No, I remember. Yes, you did, and that was a pretty nice zebra. But I did give you a criticism, didn't I? I told you to continue working on it, continue developing it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and you know something? That's, I would say, pretty standard fare for me to tell you to keep developing it, because no matter who you are, including myself, you can always go in and you can always develop further what you're working on. Okay, if you're working in a creative environment, in a company, a business, you may have a cutoff time in terms of hours that you can spend on a project. You know, so you basically have to pump something out and get it there. You have to be able to get it there. That's something that will come, though, as you become more skilled with the program, and you don't have to worry about that right now. Ultimately, you do the best you possibly can with the time that you can comfortably allow on the project. Make sure you get all your projects in and submit it as much on time as you possibly can, and then go back and revisit the projects that you have the ability to improve for better grades. That's what I would expect you to do with the rest of this week. Okay? Does that seem fair and reasonable?
Yep.
Okay. So I did ask everybody to send me artwork for critiquing tonight, and unfortunately I only got one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to critique that one piece, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into Illustrator and I'm going to show you a couple of projects that fall within the realm of what we're working on, which is a superhero. And then I'm going to actually show you and discuss how I approached creating my superhero, hopefully giving you the opportunity to figure a way that you might be able to do it without producing a tremendous amount of stress for you, okay? So that's my goal with that. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the gradient tool tonight. That's part of the thing because I use the gradient tool quite a bit in my superhero. So I'm going to be covering that. I assume all of you are aware that we have been having a problem with the Zoom record in that you're not seeing my mouse, right? See my mouse moving around here?
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you go to the recording, though, you're not seeing the mouse, are you?
No.
No, and that really stinks. But you know
It
what?
does.
Yeah, it really is hard. So what I've tried to do is over the past week, once I realized that was happening, I went back in and I created those 2 Camtasia videos showing you the 2 parts of the lesson that I did last week so that you could go and look at them in Camtasia and you could see the mouse.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm told that in about a month, they're going to resolve this issue and we'll be able to see the mouse. So we're just going to have to deal with that. And I'm terribly sorry for it, but it isn't anything that I can do. The only thing I can do is this. I can go in and I can go and what is it? Let's see, is it annotate? Spotlight. Yeah, I think I can. There you go. See the spotlight?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to leave the spotlight on because I am told that the spotlight will show up. And actually, I wonder if the mouse works. Let me try this. I don't know. I can't tell you whether I'm gonna hit the spotlight because I don't know what whether the mouse will actually do it for me or not. But the spotlight, at least what that'll do is that'll take the place of the mouse. So if you use your imagination, wherever you're seeing the spotlight, that's where my cursor is at the point where we're working. Okay? So we'll see how that works. Maybe that'll be a good way to do it. Okay. So, all right. So that's the first thing. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to open up this folder inside the folder here. Let me get this out of the way.
I actually have a question.
Well, go right ahead.
About a week and a half or so ago, I sent you an email with a picture that I was working on with the graphic that in Illustrator.
Okay.
That was when I was hoping you'd be able to critique for me. It was a shark.
Oh, I don't recall getting that, Jeff. A shark?
Yeah, I did a hammerhead shark because my little girl wanted a T-shirt for Shark Week, and I thought I could try to make her one.
I don't remember seeing that at all. Are you sure you sent it to me?
Well, I sent it in an email as a attachment. You replied to my email, although I'm not certain if you were able to get into the attachment.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't even remember the situation. I don't remember seeing the attachment. Usually, I can be a little dull at times. When you start getting exceptionally old, these things do happen. So it could be just that I had a senior moment, or perhaps I just basically didn't see it, which I'm very sorry about. I guess what I can offer you, if you want to, quickly email it to me. I'll open it up and I'll critique it tonight because I can go in. If you tell me that you sent it to me in email, it won't take me very long to open this up and get it, and I can add it to our little email thing tonight. So if you want to do that, feel free to go ahead and do that, and then I will critique that or have a discussion at least with you. Ginger, I assume Ginger's not. Oh, Ginger is here. Where's Ginger? Which is Ginger?
Here.
Okay, Ginger. So I got your two pieces of art here. So you're the one that's. I'm glad that you're here because, again, what I like to do with a critique, especially, is I like to interact with the student. I like to discuss it with you, and there's a reason that I like to do it that way. Usually, when you are in an environment, like in a creative environment, a company, a business, something like that, usually when you do a critique, it's in front of a group of stakeholders, people that are working on the project, and their critiques are based on input that they feel is necessary for you to, as the designer, to consider. So we don't have that situation. So what I'm saying is I have to play the role of that person. And that's a live thing. It isn't that I give the work to somebody and they write me like a Post-it note and stick it on my Adobe Illustrator file and send it back to me. Although that can happen. Usually when you do a critique of this kind, it's usually in a meeting where there's several people and each person has something that they add, and of course they kind of bang it around the table and we come up with a modified solution if there is one that's necessary. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
So yeah, so that's essentially what I would like to do with this, is kind of take a look at your submission and talk to you a little bit about the submission. But let me start off by asking you this. How do you feel about your submission? You're the one that produced it. What do you think about it?
I actually really like it. I
Okay.
did take your advice on the first CD cover and fix the font on it. That's why you got both sent to you twice, so you could remember what the font was on the first CD, and then you could look at the second one.
Yeah, you know what? I think I end up now with the first and I don't think I have the first and second one. I think I end up with the first and the revised first.
Okay.
So I don't even think I have the second one anymore. I think I have the first and the revised first. So what I will do is I will talk about the first one. I believe the second one is more or less the same as the first, except for the title, right?
Right.
And then the tunes on the back are different, and they were handled in a slightly different way.
Right.
But the overall visuals were more or less the same. Is that about right?
Actually, the second CD cover had a city scene on it.
Cityscape. I'm sorry. You're right. No, they are different. A cityscape. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you know, I wish I had it because I'd love to be able to discuss that as well. And I don't think I have it. I think I have Ginger. It's right here. Ginger Car CD cover. And then there's Ginger Car CD cover 2. So, all right. Well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Did you say that you were going to try to send that to me? You're going to try to email me your shark?
Yeah, I'm working on it right now.
Okay. Let me know when you've completed it, and I'll go get it. All right.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to do. I've got my. Go right ahead, Kelly. What?
I sent you my CD covers too.
Oh, you did. Okay. Where did you send it to? My personal email or through the whatchamacallit?
Through the school.
What?
Through school? Through class.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Let me quickly, guys, hold on. Let me go in and take a look. So it's going to be Canvas. Is that what you're saying? You sent it to Canvas, Kelly?
Yeah.
All right. Let me just go in and let's see how this works. If I can get this. Come on. Ah. Oh, here we go. Now I'm going to have trouble logging in on this thing. Oh, man. Here we go. Figures right now in the middle of class that I'd have this trouble or forget the damn login. Oh, boy. What is it? Great. I'm now forgetting I've forgotten my passcode. Now let's see what I got. I got it written down here. Ugh, what a pain. Zoom. This is not Zoom. This is Canvas. Jeez. Great. I forget my Canvas lock-in. Isn't that terrific? Let me try this. All right. Do me a favor. Could you send it to my Outlook let me go to my Outlook. The reason I'm doing this is because I've forgotten my password. I have it written down somewhere, and I don't want to go get it. So here, I'm going to log into this, okay, and send it to me. I'll show you what to do, both of you. Oh, there's Kelly. Okay, let's see if I can get in like this. I might have to come in and use the password anyway. Let's see what it does. All right. Yeah, see, I'm going to get that. Do me a favor. Both of you, please send it to...
It says right there, download CD. Has an attachment to download.
Oh, let's see. Let's see if it's downloading. Yeah, it is downloading. Okay, there we go. I got that. Whoops. Yeah, I see one of them looks like it's downloaded. Let me see here. Drop that down. Okay, there is CD template Manilo. There's that. And Jeff, what do we got for Jeff?
I just sent you one to Doslini.edu.
You sent it here? Look. William.Sweeney at Independence EDU.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it hasn't arrived yet. I don't see it yet. Let me just see if I can Yeah, it's not quite here yet. So you know what? Remind me in a couple of seconds. I'm going to come back and check this out.
Okay.
I have the CD template for you, and then I have Ginger's. Okay, well, that's good. Now I got a couple of things that we can actually critique, which is very good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Illustrator, and I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to come into my desktop and for tonight. Yeah, there we go. There we go. And there is Ginger's CD. This is the first one, I think, Ginger. So there it is. I'm opening it. And wow. Okay. And one of two. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I think actually, yeah. Hey, guess what? All right. You know what I got?
You got both of them.
Okay, so all right. So we've got a couple of little issues here. Okay, so what happened? Let me explain to you what happened. I was able to open this thing up, but notice that your font, new and blue over here, is not displaying properly. Now, the reason that's happening, does anybody know what the reason why that's happening is?
Because it said something about that font doesn't work.
Well, do you know why it's not working?
No.
Okay. This is good for everybody for the future. Not everybody has the same fonts on all their computers. I don't always have the same fonts that you have on your computers. So when you send something to me, and if I do not have that font, the program is unable to display the font. Does that font look like what your font looks like, Ginger?
Yeah.
It does look like it?
Almost, but it should be a little bit bolder.
Okay, so what looks like it? The blue, new and blue thing?
Yeah, the outline.
Yeah, that's what it should look like?
Exactly.
Okay, so what it's trying to do is it's trying to create that, but the problem is that it's not able to. One thing I might be able to do, let me see if this works. I doubt it, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try to click on this and select it. I guess I can't even do that. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. No, it's not going to let me do that. Okay, so I'll forget about it. I was going to see if I could try to turn it into outlines. Well, anyway, what I wanted to tell you is whenever you submit text to a professor from now on in Adobe Illustrator, and this goes for Adobe Photoshop as well, and there's a different way of dealing with this in InDesign, and it's a little more complicated, so I'm going to leave that to the instructor that's dealing with you and InDesign to explain, which could possibly be me. I might see you guys again. When you're in Illustrator and you create any type, before you send the type to your instructor, select all the type and go up to the type menu and go create outlines. You see where it is?
Yep.
Okay, now let me explain exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. By taking the fonts that you have used and turning them into outlines, they are no longer true fonts. They are graphic shapes. And they, as graphic shapes, will display exactly the way they should display on screen. Okay? So that's something that you want to remember to do. And don't do it on your original because you want to keep your original fonts intact. But maybe save it as a copy just before you're ready to send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and go up into the type and select all the type, because it could be any type. It could be any part of the type. Go up into the font menu, the type menu, and go down and create outlines. And it will turn them all into graphic shapes. And then, as I say, when you send it to me as a PDF, I can open it up in Illustrator like I did, and I will get the fonts that you want. Okay? Any questions about that?
Nope.
Yeah, this is a good thing for you to learn, because I know that you'll have other classes where you'll be working in Adobe Illustrator especially, and you're going to be sending instructors artwork, and it will be really good for you to be able to get them the fonts that you want them to see. So this is definitely something that you want to do. And I don't know, let's see what happens with this font, this text over here. Let's see if I can, there's a line of text. So there's my text. Okay, so I've selected that line of text. I want to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to zoom in on it. So first of all, that's what your text looks like normally, right? Everybody recognizes that? You know what that text looks like? You've seen it before. You know that if you want, you can go in there and you can change that text because it's still text, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is the moment that you want to turn this into graphic shapes, with it selected, you see the underline, which tells you it's regular text. Go up to the type menu and go create outlines and watch very carefully what happens to all that text. Look at that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you see how it now becomes graphic shapes? They're all little graphic shapes. And you no longer have to worry about that text displaying exactly the same way. It will always look like that because you've taken the type instruction out of it. You've made it a graphic shape. Illustrator can open any graphic shape at all that you want. So in the future, whenever you're working with something like this, before you send it to your instructor, make sure that you go in and you turn it all into text. But make sure you do it on a copy, because you don't want to do it to the original, because if the instructor gives you instructions to change the text in any way, you can't change this text anymore because it's no longer text. It's a graphic shape. Right?
Right.
You understand that?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Would we need to, or is it a better idea to outline the text before we do any of the effects to them?
No.
Like arcs or anything like that?
No. Doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, almost every single effect will work perfectly well on live text, and you still have the editability. The only thing that and even 3D, if you play around with 3D, you'll be able to go in and edit the text anytime you want. Of course, you'll probably have to go up to the window menu and get the appearance palette in order to make the edits on the 3D. Do you guys remember me doing that when I was playing around with the 3D?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all just a question of knowing how to operate with some of the basic panels and some of the basic tools and some of the basic effects or commands. Once you get that, and once you start being comfortable with that, you're going to find, surprisingly enough, a lot of this is going to start to fall into place. I swear to you. It's just really a matter of getting some of the basic comfort with some of the basic stuff. Okay? So that's what I would tell you to do. There's one other thing that I want to mention to you, and I might have already talked to, I don't know, Jeff, did I have conversations with you on the phone?
Yes.
I might have mentioned to you about the links palette. Were you the one I was talking to about the links palette?
Yeah, I actually found something as soon as I bring an image into Illustrator.
Right.
Before I do anything to it, there's actually it actually gives me the option to embed it right then and there.
Okay, great. And that's a very good thing to do. Now, let's explain to the others what we're talking about, Jeff. Basically, when you bring a bitmap, like in this particular case, you have the ability to bring a bitmap in. We talked about this last week. If you want to use a bitmap, you can use a bitmap as part of this CD cover. And I even told you where you could maybe go to pick up a couple of bitmaps so that you could find them, bring them in. And we even played around for a very brief period of time in Photoshop so that you could see how to size and crop and do some things before you bring it into Adobe Illustrator, okay? So the point is that when you bring a bitmap into Adobe Illustrator, you're bringing an orange to a basket of apples. That's essentially what's going on here, because basically Adobe Illustrator is a vector file and a bitmap is a bitmap. It's not a vector file. So you're bringing it in, but you're limited in what you can do with it because it's not native to Adobe Illustrator. It can be used in Illustrator, no problem, but it isn't what Illustrator normally works with. So when you bring it in, it gets brought in normally as a link. Now, Jeffrey, I would like you to please explain to the girls how you linked when you brought it in, and pay attention to what he's saying and see if it makes sense to you.
Okay, well, first, yeah, what happened was I was trying to link the image before, and I would go to to pull it up.
Yep.
Where was that at? That's an object or
File place?
But yeah, oh no,
File.
once it's already there and I've already traced on it and everything.
Okay,
and
do you go to the, wait a minute, do you go to the window links?
Window links panel, and then I went, and then it wouldn't let me highlight embed image. And so after doing that, after looking around a little bit, I went to the it said show all embedded images, and they were already embedded.
Right.
So
here.
I went back to see now what was going on, and as soon as I was able to drop an image in, a bitmap in, right along the top bar, where all of the where you can make
up here.
Yes.
Okay.
Right up here, it gave you a link to embed right there.
Oh, okay. So that's when you went to file place.
Yes.
And then when you file place, the image came in, and before you deselected it, there was a change that occurred up here in the properties bar.
Correct.
And there was a link. Okay, so girls, what he's telling you is when you bring in an image, file place, bring a bitmap in, this properties bar at the top, what it does, it's known as a context sensitive properties bar. It means essentially that whatever you're working on at the time, watch this, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on that text right there. Can you see how that changed to type? You see what it says right there? That's the context sensitive. So now this property bar is showing you, I wonder if I can move that, I can. This property bar is showing you different things that can be done to that text right there, okay? Now watch when I click on this text. What does it say?
Group.
Yeah, you know why? Because it's a different object. It is not anymore a text object. I'm going to try to click this object in the background here. Oh, and check that out. See, it says clip group. So this thing here is a clipped group. There's a group of objects that has a clipping path put on this, right? You did it, Ginger, didn't you? You remember doing that?
No.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I remember grouping a few of them, but.
Well, anyway, the point is that whatever object you have selected at the time, if you look up here, there are basic things that you can do to that object that eventually you will come to understand. And what Jeffrey is saying is that when he brought the bitmap image in, it came in and it stayed selected. And he looked up here, and I guess what did it say? Bitmap?
It just said embed.
Embed. Okay, yeah. Embed. That makes sense because it's an embedded object. No, but what did this say over here in the clip group area where it says clip group right now? Do you remember what it said there?
Oh no, I'm not sure what that said over there.
It might have said something like image or bitmap or link. Any of those sound familiar?
Oh yeah, it did say. It said link.
Link. Okay, yes. So here's what I was getting at before. I don't know how much I really clearly stated this, but whenever you bring a bitmap in, it links it automatically. That's the way the program will work. It won't embed the object. Embedding the object means essentially that it becomes part of the file. And when you send it to me, if it's embedded, because it's embedded, when I open it, it will display. But if you send it to me and it's not embedded, it's linked, you have to send me that picture at the same time or it will not display. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Kind of.
Okay, so what I'm getting at, Ginger, is if something is linked to something, you have to know where it's linked from.
Right.
And the link is not taking place. The original link is taking place on your computer, not my computer.
Okay.
So in order for it to work on my computer, you have to you have to make a folder. You have to put the image in the folder, and you have to put the file in the folder. And then you have to place the image from within the folder into my file, and then send me that whole folder in order for that picture to come up. And very often students don't know to do that. So what happens when I go to open up my file, I don't get the image. The way that you get around that is when you place the image, you go up and you go to the links palette, which is right here, and you select the layer with the image that you've linked, and you come to the drop-down menu and choose Embed Image. And then it turns that image into an image that's within the actual document, and it becomes permanent. Okay? If I get a chance in a minute, I'm just going to bring an image into your file, Ginger, to show how that works, hopefully. Okay? So I'll give you a demonstration of how that works in a minute. Does it sort of make sense to you? Do you think it makes sense? Yeah. Jeffrey got it because Jeffrey did it. He figured it out and he did it. So that's good. But what do you girls think? Does it kind of make sense?
Yeah. It does now.
Will it help a little bit if I show you a demonstration of how it works?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'll do that in a minute. Okay, let me get out of here. Let me get back to this. And all right, so I'm going to go View, Fit, Artboard. Let's go zoom out. View, zoom out. There we go. I want to see this a little bit better so I can view, zoom out. There we go. And let me drag that down a bit. There is too much. I still need to zoom it out a bit. I got so much stuff, so little space on my window here, and I know where to put things. I'm bringing it over here and get that up there. And okay, so now view, zoom out. There we go. Now we're getting close to where we can see it. It's a little bit better. Okay, and I'm going to close that, and I'm going to minimize this for a minute. There we go, and that's a little bit better. Let's dock that. There. Okay, so now we're actually seeing a little bit of this. All right, so there is one of your pieces. Actually, this piece is pretty good in that I have my mandated piece here, my
Barcode.
that's my barcode. And just so that everybody understands this, the barcode.
You can't come in. I'm in class. Go out.
Guys, stay out there.
Shut the door.
Yeah, listen, guys, do me a favor, please. Shut your mic down if you've got people talking, and I'll turn you on, okay? Shut your mic down so the other people, thank you. Okay. All I want to say about the barcode here, and this is for everybody's benefit because you actually did it right, Ginger. The barcode should be against the white background the way it's being presented here in Ginger's piece. Now, there's a reason for that. The barcode works by a scanner scanning these lines. And in order for it to scan those lines, it has to be against a white background to do that. So if you don't have a white background behind your barcode, it isn't going to scan properly. I'm mentioning this to you because there was at least 1 or 2 students that have submitted to me projects that have the barcode not in front of white, and that is not the right way to use a barcode. So it's really, really important that you understand that. All right, so make sure that when you submit the barcode, that the barcode is against a white background like you see it here. Your text on the back works okay. Ultimately, I would like to see a little more text. I'd like to see, is there a side 1, a side 2? Are there 2 DVD? If you could be a little more specific about the text and what's with what. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And then you've got kind of like nothing going on down here. So I don't know. Maybe you could think of something that you could do down here to kind of fill this open, empty space. Just keep this in mind. When people create creative things like CD covers and stuff, they end up spending a good bit of money on it. And they generally don't want things to be overly busy, but they want to utilize the panels to their fullest extent. And this one isn't quite there yet. It's kind of, got a bit of a hole there that might be usable in some way. Maybe a photo or something. Again, that's just something that you could think about. Okay? But your text on the back is basically good. I would like to know, is 1, 2, 3, and 4 side A and 5, 6, 7, 8 side B. I'd like to know a little bit about that. That would make it work a little bit better for me. The new and blue up in the front here, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm looking at some of your other graphics here, like these lines and whatnot, I believe that some of these things, it looks like you went in and tried to do 3D on. Is that correct, Ginger?
Yep.
All right, so I commend you on that. I think that's a really good thing that you tried to do, and you sort of did it. I mean, you kind of pulled it off. If one of the reasons that I mention this is because I seem to recall that your text was in 3-dimension, and because the text isn't coming up properly, it also, I guess, lost that 3-dimensional appearance that you put on it.
Actually, I just did that one flat with a outline.
You did.
Yeah, my
Okay.
first CD
Okay.
cover has
All right. The other one with 3D, because I think the other one was 3D, wasn't it? One of them were.
I did mine with 3D, like Superman.
You had yours in 3D.
Yeah, it was like Superman's writing.
Okay. Okay. So good. I commend you on that. See, I'm actually very happy to see that you guys are trying your best to do some of these things, because again, the only way that you're going to get comfortable with this, the only way you're going to get a true understanding of it is by doing it. So give it a try. And if you have a problem, Jeff called me, Ginger, you called me, right?
Yeah.
I try to answer the phone, and I try to either meet with you in the room or discuss it over the phone and get you a solution that you can work with. I'm not going to leave you cold and hanging. I'm going to do my best to help you out as best I can. Just give me a call if you need to. So, other than that, I think this is kind of okay up in the front here. I might actually, if I were you, I might consider finding a better graphic for this horn player. It's kind of like weak. Even if you found a piece of clip art that you could modify, I might even prefer that a little bit. I like what you did through here, and I especially like the idea that you made the effort to put the 3D into it. And, it's noticeable. I know it's happening. So, I mean, that's a very good thing. So, again, what I would do is resubmit and show me the text, create outlines so that I get the text, and maybe see if you can come up with something a little bit more jazzy here, a little bit more detailed here, and see if you can come up with something for this area. And that's really all you need to do with this. This isn't really too bad. I like the background. I like your colors. I like the use of colors. I like the skyline kind of effect that's going on there, and I kind of like the idea of this glowing thing that's going on. Kind of works okay. So anybody, Jeff, anybody want to say anything about this? Anybody have something that they'd like to add? Feel free to do it.
Nope, I think it looks, once that's critiqued a little bit better, I think it'd look good.
Yeah. Okay, so what about you? What about you, Ginger? Do you have any thoughts? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Were you saying something, Jeff?
I just said I like the skyline there.
I like the idea of the skyline, and I kind of like the idea that she used those colors. I think those sort of a nocturnally color scheme down at the bottom is kind of cool, and I also kind of like the way that it sort of blends up into the sky. What I might have done differently would be to have this. I don't know exactly how you did this. Let me ask you how you did this. Was this was this background here, was this all one piece, or was this a piece and that a piece?
Okay, the city and the sunburst were one piece, and I did that, got it out of the raster and put it into the vector.
Yeah.
And then the background, the colors.
What about this gray? What about this gradient gray?
That came from the Cruel color panel.
Okay, but is it a separate object from?
Yeah, it's separate from the city.
Okay, so let me explain to you what, because I don't know whether I'd be able to do this, but let me explain to you what I think you might want to consider doing. If you take this sky graphic here, and I don't know, let's see if I can try to do it. I don't know whether I can. I'll try. Is this a gradient? This whole thing is a gradient?
Right.
There it is. Okay, so you really can't do that. Okay, so what I would have done maybe is I would have created two gradients. The gradient that goes from this dark to that light. And I would have created a graphic shape that goes from, say, oh, I don't know, all the way up to the top to all the way down to the bottom. And I would create a transparency mask. Let me see if I can show you how to do that. I'm going to show you in a demonstration how to create a transparency mask. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for this to go gradient. I want it to go from dark to light, dark to transparent. All right. So let me go edit, copy, edit, paste in front. Okay. So what I did was I pasted a copy of this in front of the other. Okay.
Okay.
And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to reflect this along the horizontal axis. There you go. And hit OK. So the reason I'm doing this is because I want to show you, I'm going to try to show you what I'm talking about here. So now I have this piece. What I want to do is I want to have this go dark here and I want to have this go light here. So I'm going to now bring this down more towards the bottom. And this isn't going to look exactly like what I had in mind, but under the circumstances, it's about the best I can do. Okay? So I'm going to now change the size of this, bring this up a little bit, making it bigger. Okay? So you see what I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to get this gradient to go. Okay. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get my regular rectangle tool, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a rectangle just like this. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to go to the gradient, and I'm going to change this to a regular gradient. I'm going to actually make this a black and white gradient. Okay? Making this just a black and white gradient. And this is going to be white. There we go. Okay, so now I have a black and white gradient. Now, there is my gradient palette. We're going to be talking more about the gradient palette tonight. But I just wanted to give you a quick idea of what I had in mind with this. I might want to actually bring this up a little bit because I want the bottom to be a little darker. And maybe what I actually want to do is see, I'll take that center point and bring that up a little bit. Yeah, I like that. See how I got a little bit more dark and then real light here? Okay, so what is an opacity mask? Object, actually, window, transparency, window, transparency. There it is. Opacity mask. So what opacity mask is you take an object like the background, which is this gradient going from dark to green, right? Mm-hmm. And you select it, okay? See how it's selected? And then you hold down the shift key and you click on your masking object. Now, a masking object should just be something that goes from dark to light. So a regular old gradient is what you're going to use for your transparency mask. Now, let me show you how a transparency mask works. So in the transparency palette with both of these objects selected, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose make opacity mask. And you see what it did? It essentially created a mask. It's masking everything outside that rectangular space. And you see where the white is? The white is showing the color. And where the black is, the color pretty much disappears. So that's what an opacity mask is. Now, if I want to change it, I can invert the mask. And what that will do is it'll make the dark show, and it'll make the light go transparent. So that is a transparency mask. So what I was thinking that you would do here is create this nice colorful sky that runs all the way down the background, and then on top of it, create this gradient that goes from light to dark, and make an entire opacity mask of that, so that what happens is the gradient literally causes this background to disappear more evenly into the background. Does that make sense?
Right. It
Or
kind
did I
of
throw you guys for a loop with that one?
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
looks like-
Actually, you know what I can do? Watch this. I can come in here and I can click on this. Let's see if I can. There you go. I got that. I can come in here and I can take that out of here, and I can remove that, and I can remove that. And now I think you're getting, I got to get rid of that as well. Now I think you're getting a much better look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so then if I were to come in here and come in and grab my free transform tool, oh, you know what? Got to grab the right object. Click on my opacity mask and free transform this. I can drag this thing over.
My best friend,
And actually, I have to come in here and I have to select. You know what I got to do? I got to select this. That's what I got to select. And then I got to free transform it. It's actually hard to do. Let me try to do this. Let's go. Release opacity mask. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing before I turn it into an opacity mask, and I'm going to change the size of this. I'm going to make it fill the entire screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So now that I've got my green color all the way across here, I'm going to make my transparency mask fit the size of the frame. Okay? And then I'm going to select that shape, and I'm going to make sure that my mask area is selected, which I believe it is. Yes, it is. See, they're both selected. See it?
Yep.
Move this out of the way. That's selected and that's selected. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to go make opacity mask. I've made the mask, and then I'm going to invert the mask. And that is kind of what I had in mind for what you were doing. Okay?
Okay.
And then this way you've got this background. I don't know what it's going to look like when I go back. Let's see what it looks like when I go back. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's cool. I like that even better.
Okay. But can you see the difference between what I did and what you did? Not that I'm saying anything was wrong with what you did, but this gives almost a much more realistic nocturnal effect.
Right.
It's good.
It also makes the images out of the trumpet pop a little more too.
Yeah. And I just think it's generally speaking, I think it's kind of a cleaner look. So I know that was a kind of a clunky demonstration of how to do that, but I hope that you guys got it. And remember, even though I'm going to have a little trouble with this is still here, hopefully working, and you should be able to kind of follow what I did to create that. Creating opacity masks like this and creating masks are a tremendous value to you when you actually work on projects in Illustrator. So you really should know how to handle them. And they really aren't that difficult. Basically, you've got the transparency palette, you select make opacity mask, and then you just take a look at how the opacity mask is being made and decide whether you want to invert it or not to get a different effect or to get the effect that you're looking for. Okay?
That's good.
So that's it. And Kelly, that is my, I'm Ginger. I mean, that is my discussion of your piece. Any last questions with that one?
Nope.
No. Okay, I'm going to close this because what I want to do is I want to open the other one for a second. Save changes. No, I don't need to save changes. File, open, and let's find your other one here. Okay. And I want the first one this time. Okay. Come on. There we go. All right. Now, I don't have a lot to say. See, here's your West Coast Jazz. Once again, good thinking to go in and play around with the 3D tools. I really appreciate the fact that you did that. It shows that you were watching what was going on and you got something. Here's where you fall down, and I'll tell you how to fix this. I'm going to come in and zoom in and take a look at the text. Okay, I don't know whether I told you about this or not. I think I might have, though, about the appearance palette and how what's the proper way to put outlines on text. Did I talk to you about the appearance palette and outlines on text? Does anybody remember me doing that?
I think so.
No?
No, I think so.
Okay, well then let me quickly give you a demonstration on this, because this is another really important point. A lot of people like putting outlines on text. Personally, I'm one of them. So there's a really good way of doing this, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Just going to write Bill for now, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make it bold. That's a good font. Make it bold and make it bigger so I can see it. 60 point. That's pretty good. Okay, so there we have Bill in text, and you can see that it has a black fill, right?
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to come in here, because if I come over here and if I select a stroke, and if I make a white stroke on that, the way it sits right now doesn't look terrible. But if I start putting heavier strokes on this, you see what starts to happen?
Yep.
The stroke starts to choke off the fill, and it starts to look terrible, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the problem that we have when we work with strokes. But there's an incredibly easy way to solve this. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to remove the stroke. And I'm going to open up the appearance palette. And what the appearance palette allows me to do is it allows me to put multiple strokes and fills, among other things. The appearance palette is an incredibly valuable palette for you. I think when I was doing the three-dimensional stuff, remember when I was doing the three-dimensional stuff, I talked to you about the appearance palette and how you could open up the appearance palette and access the 3D commands that you put into it and go back in and modify them, right? Remember me doing that?
Yep.
All right, so here's what I want to do. I've got a fill of black. What I want to do is I want to put a stroke of white on this, but I want to do it the right way. I want it to be bold. So I'm going to come over here to the drop-down menu, and I have a choice of adding a new fill or adding a new stroke. Well, I have a fill in there right now, so I'm okay. I don't need a fill. But what I do want to do is add a stroke. So I'm going to click Add New Stroke. And what happens is the stroke comes on, and it is black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of it to white. Okay, so now I have a stroke of white. See it?
Yep.
And if I click on this, and if I go to 5 again, I have the same problem, don't I?
Right.
Okay, but what you need to understand is, you guys are familiar with Photoshop, right? And you know that Photoshop, when you take a look at Photoshop layers, the layers that are higher up on the stacking order are the layers that show in front of the other layers, right? Remember that?
Right.
Right. So if you take a look at what we got here, we have our fill and we have our stroke higher than our fill. So that means that the stroke is showing in front of the fill. So in order for us to change the way this looks, to make this look correct, all we have to do is move the fill above the stroke. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make that fill black. Let me get the fill to go black. It's actually black, but it's being stubborn about it. There. Check that out.
That's cool.
Okay.
I like that. That's
Okay,
actually
now
cool.
watch this. This is where it gets really insanely cool, okay? Because I can now come in here and I can click on this and I can go 6, 7, 8, and I can make that as big or as small as I want. And if I want, I can come in and I can add an additional stroke. Now watch this. I come in and I go Add New Stroke. And now I have a 5-point white stroke. Now remember the stacking order. whatever is on top shows mostly, okay? So our fill is on top. The white stroke is the next one. The third stroke, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of that, and I got to come back over here to do that again. All right, I'm going to make it black again. I'm just going to do this in black and white so that you can see. And it's 5 points, so you're not seeing it yet. But watch what happens when I now go 6, 7, 8. Look at that. I can create multiple strokes using this palette right here. If I wanted to, I could go psychedelic and make 15 strokes on this and make really wild looking type. So I wanted to show you that when you think in terms of putting strokes on text, don't just think about going in here and putting in a fill and a stroke. Remember, in order to do this correctly, you open up the appearance palette, window, appearance. Where are you? Right there. Window appearance. And you're going to go in with the object selected. You're going to go into the drop down menu and you're going to add a new fill and a new stroke, which will then be available to you to reorder the stack so that you end up with the black. See, that's what it looks like when I remove the forward black. And if I remove this, see what happens?
So cool.
Okay, so you basically can come in and you can make as many, you can even come in and you can offset a path and you can create a fill in front of this in another color. You can do that as well. The important thing is to experiment with this a little bit, because this is something that you're going to find extremely valuable if you want to create outlines on text. And because this is live text, I can come in here and I can click on this and I can change that if I want. Look at that. See what I mean? So it really does pay to keep this as live text. And the reason that I'm doing this now and explaining this to you is because I have the situation over here where you've tried to use outline text. And
Right.
if you had done it the way I had described here, this would work and it would look much better and I would be happy with it because you'd be able to read it. It's actually a pretty good solution for something like this. When you have text that is over top of something that has a lot of detail, putting a black background or a black outline on that text with a bright colored text will pop it off big time. So this
Okay.
is actually a very good solution, but in order to do it right, you need that palette right there.
Okay.
Are we all happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, and does it make sense? And you guys got it?
Oh yeah.
All right, great. All right, so I'm going to close this. File close. And let's take a look for a second and see whether that email came in. No, it's not there yet. Jeez.
I sent you 2.
Huh?
I sent 2 over to you.
There's
Yeah.
a refresh button up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I don't see it. Hold on. There we go. Jeff Shark. Here's
I
the
sent-
image.
Yeah.
CD.
The correct one.
What do you want? You want the CD cover too? What do you want?
If
Both?
you have time to do the CD, and then the one that says the correct image is the
Okay,
shirt.
hold on. Let me get it. Come on. Oh, it's over here. Jeez. I'm not all with it tonight, I guess. Here we go. All right, let's see. Get that. All right, there we go. There's that. And then here's the correct image for the shark. There's that. Let's drag that out. Okay, so now we've got them. That's good. All right, so let's get this out of the way.
I had to resubmit the shark because I forgot to link the or embed the file, the image.
Oh, crap. You know what I did? I actually downloaded this incorrectly. Let's open this up first. Yeah, I think you're going to lose your fonts on this too. Could not find the linked file. Okay, so I'm going to lose your barcode and I'm going to lose your, yeah, I lost the barcode and I lost the fonts. And that, again, is because the barcode apparently isn't linked in, right?
Right.
And the fonts are not turned into outline. Do they look anything like what yours should look like?
Well, Billie Holiday should be a really neat cursive that I found.
Okay.
Other than that, everything else looks pretty accurate except for the barcodes that are missing.
Okay. So Ginger, take a look at what he did. He found a bitmap of Billie Holiday, and he incorporated a bitmap. Then he used type over here. Then what he did was, I guess he found a graphic or another bitmap of Billie Holiday, traced it or imported it and traced it, and then used it as a graphic on the back, which is something which is perfectly acceptable. Now, could he have used it in a lighter way? Yeah, he could have made the thing real light, like a ghost. Could he have made it face the other direction? Yeah, he could have done that. There's a lot of things that he could do. But you see how basically the space is more or less filled in. Then he came up with this graphic that says bonus tracks, which is a very clever thing to do because, you know, again, you want people to think that there's some bonuses in there. So that's really a very clever thought that you did on that, Jeff. Whereabouts did the barcode go?
I had the barcode up above the word, well, up above holiday, right above the I, the D, and the A, and the Y.
On the back?
Yes.
Oh, so here.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's all right. I would not want to put it up there because I would think that, you know, it'd be better down in the bottom. What I would do is I would get rid of the new and blue down here, and I would try to figure out a way, maybe make this text smaller, and also be careful not to get too close to the edge when you're working with text. Move your text in. I'd get rid of new and blue on the back because you got it on the front, and that's good enough. Get rid of that, make that smaller, and tuck it in here.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I would do. Other than that, I kind of like it. I think it works.
Great.
Okay. And this one here, I like something about this. I just, you know, the way that it has this kind of like, I don't know, rock and roll, jukeboxy kind of feel, and the text works in a jukeboxy kind of way. I like it. It works. And I like the fact that you've used these visuals and you've used them in a very ghostly manner. I really like the whole thing. And I love the back. I think the back looks like a jukebox kind of, and it kind of works really nice for me. One thing that I might do, two things I might do on the back is I might work with gradients a little bit to create more of a three-dimensional disc. In other words, if you work with a gradient, the best way I could show you in a simple way is to actually demonstrate. So I'll try to create something quickly to show you what I'm talking about here. See if I can pull this off. Oh, you got the layers locked, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Let's see if they're locked. Yeah, you got them locked. So I'm going to create a new layer. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock all your layers, and I'm going to create a new layer up on top here. And then I'm going to come in. I'm going to draw this circle. Hold down the Shift key to make a circle. Now, you also know that if you hold down the space bar, you can move the circle.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, hold down the space bar. You can move the circle or reposition it and get that circle right where you want it. That's a great trick that I always use there. So now I got that circle, and it's close enough for my purposes. So what I want to do with this is I want to create a gradient, okay? But I don't want to create a gradient on the stroke. I want it to be on the fill, and I want no stroke. So now I have this gradient, but it isn't exactly the gradient that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the gradient palette, which is right here. And in the gradient palette, I can go linear or radial. So I'm going to choose radial instead of linear. And why am I not getting my gradient to change to radial? Come on. Oh, you know why? Because I got the wrong thing selected again. There we go. Okay, so there you have it. There's my gradient. Now, the only thing is I might want to swap that, change it. I think maybe that is better. Yeah, there we go. And probably bring that out more and bring it out even more. And maybe what I'll do is bring this over a little bit. And maybe what I'll do is I'll click here and place another one and color it with black. So I get something like this going on. Now, I mean, I could go nuts with something like this just so that you know. I'm not going to because I don't have the time, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of what you could possibly do. And if you want, if that's too bright for you, you can double click on this and you could make that a slight bit darker. Okay. And now that I have this, I can go into the transparency palette. See the transparency palette?
Yep.
And in the transparency palette, they have what are known as blend modes. Blend modes are really cool because what blend modes allow you to do is take this color and either multiply it or lighten it or overlay it. I'm going to try multiply it first. And you see how it multiplies that? It didn't really do exactly what I want. Let me try the overlay. And that didn't work either. Probably somewhere along the line of multiply, or let's go in and try darken. That's okay, but then the problem is that it's kind of like dark in the middle. So what I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to click on that, hold down the, I think the control key. Nah, it's the alt key. There we go. And I'm going to create another one, and then I'm just going to move that out. There we go. So I've basically created this kind of look here, and this, trying to place this in such a way. What happens is this is the white actually disappears. So you get this kind of dark and light kind of effect here. I guess the thing that I would like to do with this is somehow come up with something that looks sort of like a highlight on there. So the way to do something like that would be maybe to go in and create with the pen tool. I'm going to go Object, Lock, Selection, and I'm going to maybe come in with the pen tool and click and come down to about here, click, and then come over to here and click, and then come up and click about here, and then come over here and click, sort of give it a round look. And then what I'll do is I'll make that white and no stroke on it. And then I'm going to select it and go to the effect menu and go to blur and go to Gaussian blur and preview it. And you see what it's doing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And drag it over and blur it a lot.
Wow, that's awesome.
Lot. Something like that.
Where the light's hitting it.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then if you want, you can come in here and you can play around with, okay for now. This is done very quickly. Come in here and let's see if I can play around with this. Overlay, no, overlay is no good. What I need is lighten. Let's try lighten. I'm trying to soften it. Yeah, I guess the way to do it is to come in here and play around with the opacity. See, there, that's what I'm looking for.
And then that's really great.
Then I'm going to click on this thing, make sure it's selected, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to reflect it. And I'm going, where is it? Let's see, where did it go? Did it close? It did. Double click on it. There we go. And I'm going to reflect it. You see how I reflected along the vertical axes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it's previewing it. I'm going to hit copy. And I actually made a duplicate. Then I can come down here and I can put the duplicate down there. Okay?
Oh, wow.
Right. And then if I want, I can select both of these guys. I'm just trying to do this as quickly as I can. Select both of them. And then I'm going to come over here and click on the rotate tool. And you see how the rotation is right in the middle there?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click, and I'm going to drag this around. Cancel. Hold on. I got to redo it because I messed it up. I rotate it. No, it's got to be in the middle. There we go. Okay. Click on this and then hold down the Alt key and drag me. Wrong one. It is the Alt key. I hit the wrong one. There, I've created two new ones.
Mm.
Okay. And then if I want them to be different, I can hold down the Shift and the Alt key and I can make these things narrower.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And now I've got something that looks even more like a disc. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that I just kind of threw that in there in a matter of minutes. If I were really seriously going to do this, I would spend more time and I would really make those shapes better. And I would really work on it to make it better. But I just wanted to give you a quick idea of how you could make something even more realistic looking by adding a few shapes on top of it. Okay? But other than that, and you know what? Another thing that you could do really is you could come in here and you could create what's called a vignette. You guys know what a vignette is?
No.
Like this, select this whole area here and put a gradient on it, okay? Put that gradient on it right there, but what you're going to do is you're going to make it simpler again. You're going to get rid of that. You get rid of that. Come on, let's go. There we go. Move that over to there and get rid of that. Ooh, you know what? I don't want that. I want that in there. There we go. And then reverse it. I'm going to reverse this. Bring that over to there and get rid of that one. There we go. And yeah, actually, it's not reversed. Why didn't it reverse? What did I do wrong? I want it on the outside. There we go. That's what I want. There we go. And I want to probably do something like this, like that. There we go. And click on this and maybe make it a little bit lighter. That's probably pretty good. And then, again, this is what's known as a vignette. Then I come in here and I click on this and I bring it down to like 30%. And maybe it's got to go a little bit heavier. Let's try 60. Yeah. And then this thing here, see how this white is looking white in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you another trick. Come over here and click on the white. And then what I'm going to do is see where it says opacity?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In terms of a gradient, if I lower the opacity of one of the colors, it's going to make them invisible. It's going to make them transparent. Right now, do you see how the opacity is set to 100%?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I come over here and click on this, and if I bring it down to 0, you see what it did? It made the white go away altogether, and it made this color here 100% opaque. Now I'm going to bring up that. See? And that is what's known as a vignette. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's the gradient and the gradient tool and, of course, the gradient palette. And then, of course, what you have to worry about is the type of gradient that you have. Either it's radial or linear. I showed you a little bit to do with the radial, but the linear, I showed you also the linear when I was making that opacity mask. So you're going to use both of them. You have angles in here. You come in and you can change the angle on this if you want. It's very easy to determine an angle for it. In this particular case, since this is a radial, we really don't get to use the we don't really get to use the yeah, see, that's probably a little bit better. We don't really get to use the angle on a radial. If this were a linear, let's change it to linear. There, see how that's a linear? I could come in here and I could choose an angle, like for instance 90 degrees. See how that gives me a 90-degree angle? Or I can come down here and I can go 120 degrees. See, and that brings it down to 120 degrees. Negative more or less is towards the bottom up, and positive is from the top down. Okay, so that's essentially how that works. And then you can come in and you can play with these stops, and you can make the thing as dark, as light as you want. See, every time you move this a little bit, you're adjusting it. And then, of course, the opacity here, as I explained to you, you can pick a color and you can make it transparent, which I did with the white. You're no longer really seeing the white in here. You're just basically seeing the black. And then what I did to make this thing lighter is I used the transparency palette in conjunction with it, and I dropped the opacity down to 60%. Now that's the opacity on the entire gradient. This is the opacity on the stop. Does that make sense to you? You got to differentiate between the two. There are two types of opacities we're talking about here. I got a white stop and a black stop that's making my gradient. And when I come in here and I set this back, watch, I'm going to set it, it's actually set to normal. I'm going to set this back to 100. And you see, there's the black. And that's the entire gradient. Here, the opacity, I'm going to click on the white, and I'm going to set this back to 100. You see? And it brings the white back. So there's a difference between the opacity here, which is on that white alone, and I'm going to bring that down to 0 again. Okay? So you're not seeing the white, you're seeing through the white, but you're still seeing the black. And then, with this whole thing selected, I'm going to come in here. Didn't need to do that. With this whole thing selected, there. I can come in here and I can set the opacity on the whole thing down to say 50%. That's probably too light. I think I had it 60. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Okay. So there's two different types of transparency for the entire object, and that's in the transparency palette. In the gradient palette, I have stops, and stops generally talk about the color for each of your colors that you're using in your gradient. And you can have one or more partially transparent or completely transparent. Okay? Clear enough, do you think?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So that's it. Any other comments? Anybody want to make a comment about either one of those two things? I'm going to try to wrap it up because I want to move on. And we're all good?
We're all good.
Okay. Did you want to say anything, Jeff, before we go?
No. That's you. You were talking about the adding the gradient to the platter. Now I see what you meant. Looks really good.
Yeah, and I did this in a very crude way. You could do a lot better with it if you really wanted to. I just didn't. I wanted to throw it in there quickly because I'm limited in time and it's already 8:30, so I'm running out of time. You know. Okay. So file close, and I'm going to try to open up the shark, although I don't think I'm going to get it because I only got a link to it. Let's see what we get. Yeah, I'm going to try to download it now. I kind of screwed this up a little bit. Come on. What's the deal? Hold on. Jeez. Come on. You know what? I got to log in again. This is annoying. Ugh. Okay. Open as web page. Come on. Download. What is the deal? Wow. It's a nightmare. If I downloaded this right in the first place, I would. What is the problem with this? All right, let me get out of here and let me just try from scratch. All right, so let's try. There we go. There we go. Okay, now it's happening. So I'll quickly look at this. You can explain to me what's going on with it. And then I want to get into a little bit of a discussion with the superhero. I want to at least show you guys how I drew mine and then I scanned it. Any of you guys ever worked with a scanner before?
Yes.
Okay, so Kelly, do you think you're going to be comfortable working with something via scanning it if you do it that way?
I could. It's just the problem is I'm not sure how to use the mesh for the face.
How to use the what?
To make the face.
Which face?
For the instead of sketching it by hand, I was thinking about doing it all in Illustrator. Okay.
All right, hold on a second and we'll talk about it. So this is the shark, is it?
That's the, that was just the, yeah, there's mine. There we go.
Okay. Okay, so this is how far you got with it.
Yeah.
Okay, I would, if the first thing that I see right away is, I think you jumped into the effects too quickly. I think what you need to do is you need to remove the effects on this, and you need to check to make sure that the elements that you are drawing, each individual element is drawn well enough. That's the first thing. So go in and check to make your drawing of your elements done properly and well enough, because you'd be surprised that if you draw the shark well enough, if you take the time to draw the shark well enough and look at it and try to figure out where the shapes are starting and where they're ending, and draw those shapes and put the colors in correctly, you'll probably find that you won't have to use nearly as many effects. You're just going to be able to use the shapes, and it'll come across looking pretty real for you. So that's the first thing that I would recommend that you do. Go back to the drawing board with this and remove all the effects and take a look at your shapes and make sure that you're really satisfied with the individual shapes. This area of his eyes, the mouth area, the main portion of his body, the top area of his body, these two, the two flippers in the foreground, the background tail area, the fin on the back. Just make sure that the overall shapes of those shapes are correct and that they're in the right position and they overlap in the right way. Then work on the color and then work on the detailing. And the detailing, maybe you can get into playing with some effects and whatnot. But right now, the way it is, you've jumped too quickly into the effects. That's what I think.
Do you think I should just do each piece like I was doing, like 2 parts for the head?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Dissect the whole thing. And
I would basically do that. Now, remember, less is more. Simplicity. So look at it and think about it as you work. Don't just go flying in there and start drawing shapes. Think very carefully about the objects that you see and draw the objects that you see one at a time in their proper place. And remember that when you draw these shapes and you draw shapes over top of them, they're going to appear in front. So then you have to change the stacking order in some of these depending upon how you draw them. You're going to have to change the stacking order. So it'll take a little bit of work, but if you focus on the overall shape of this guy and you look at the individual shapes and decide, like for instance, take a look at this flipper over here, where does the flipper go into the body and how does it do it? And where does it go out here? And what is the general shape of it as it moves along the top and along the bottom? Try to follow that shape as carefully as possible. This flipper, how is this flipper different from that flipper? What does that top edge look like? What does it do on the bottom? What happens up in here? And how does it go into the main body? How does it disappear behind the main body? Because that's probably what it's doing. This object here, the nose area or the eyeball area, how does that shape really work? And, what is the overall shape of it? And then how do the eyes work in? And then what do you want to put in as far as detailing is concerned over it? The overall body, does this overall body sort of twist here in a certain way? And what does the tail do? And how do the flippers come off the tail? That's what you want to do. You want to draw those pieces one at a time. And then if you want some of them together, you can select them and use the Pathfinder palette to join them together if you need them to join together. But that's how I would approach doing it. Okay?
Okay.
Any other questions?
If I get something that I can use,
yep.
How do you know where to put bleed marks and all that stuff for, like, if I wanted to have it made into a shirt?
You wouldn't need to have bleed marks for it to be made into a shirt.
So I could just give it to somebody?
Yeah, you would be able to give them that piece of art, and they would be able to, I would imagine that you would probably make it as a 4-color process piece, or you could even have it done. There's a kind of a material that's it's a printable plastic that you can embed from a color copier and create it that way. So you wouldn't need to worry about bleed marks for something like that.
Cool.
Okay.
I'll just start. Yeah, I'll just redo it. And
yeah, but you understand what I'm trying to say is, don't go right into the effects, because the effects can confuse you and they get in the way and they don't help. So stay away from the effects. Concentrate and focus on just the actual drawing itself. Okay.
Alrighty. Thank you.
All right. So. View, zoom out. I'm not going to go into this a whole lot because I'm running short on time. So I just wanted to show you very quickly. I know that this isn't a superhero, but he is a character that I created using the gradient tool in much the same way that I just demonstrated before. He's got either radial gradients or linear gradients on here. And this is just a character that I drew. And I actually drew him in Adobe Illustrator, okay? I also want to show you this. because this is a project that I worked on for, this was for a Yankee Candle. And I'm going to show you what Bucky looks like. There's Bucky, and I'll hide the background on him. So you can see I was given this sketch. That's the sketch I was given, and I had to render Bucky in Adobe Illustrator. So this is my rendering of Bucky in Adobe Illustrator. This is how I rendered Bucky in Adobe Illustrator. Okay? So I just want to quickly show you that because this is something that you'll find is pretty common to do. You're going to find people are going to give you sketches and say, can you render from my sketch? And there's the sketch, and you're going to have to come up with a full color rendition of that sketch. Okay? So that's the only reason I'm showing you those things, is because this is to give you an idea in the real world that, you know, these things come up, and you will find this is kind of a useful technique. So I have my superhero here, and there's the final version of my superhero. All right? Basically, just so that you know, he's a modification. He's actually a modification of Iron Man. Okay, I'm having a hard time finding a place to put this stupid thing. It's right in my way. Sorry about that. So I kind of did a modification of Iron Man because I didn't, you know, I don't have the creative skill. I'm not a cartoonist, and I'm not a character designer. So I figured I wanted to show how to do this. So here's how I went about doing this, and here's how I recommend that you do this. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to Superhero Start. I'm sorry, Superhero Trace. Okay, Superhero Trace. So what I did, I'm going to go File, Place, and I'm going to go up one level, and I'm going to find my Illustrator Basic, and Week 4, and Superhero, boom, and Place. There's my superhero. So here's what I did. I drew this on a piece of paper using a fine tip black marker. And I brought it into Adobe Illustrator first by scanning it. I took it and I scanned it, and then I brought it into Adobe Illustrator, and I went up into the Object menu, and I came down to Image Trace, and I chose Make. And tracing may proceed slowly with this image. Would you like to continue? Yeah. And it's going to now.
What if we can't draw that good?
What?
What if we can't draw as good as you do?
What? I didn't draw it. I traced it.
You traced it.
I traced it. I used a piece of very thin paper, and I found a good picture of Iron Man, and I basically traced it. I didn't draw it. I didn't draw it up using my own creativity, my own imagination. I traced it. That's what I'm telling you that you might consider doing. Just go in and find yourself a good character and trace the character on some kind of a thin piece of paper.
Okay.
You know, like you can buy a pad of tracing paper for a couple of bucks, and then you can.
Yeah, I have some.
Huh?
So do I. So do I.
What?
We have some.
Good. That's what I use. And I'm telling you that this is an easy way to do this. So now that I've done this, notice that it's set for default. Also here I got the tracing panel, the image trace panel. I'm going to open that up. The image trace panel gives me access to my defaults. You can come in here and change these defaults, but I find that in this particular case, believe it or not, the default works the best. So I'm going to leave this set to default, and the mode is black and white. I'm going to change this to color, okay? And I'm going to limit the colors. It's going to change this now. Give it a second. And I'm going to see what happens. It's actually working on this in a way that I don't really like. Limited palette. This may not work the way I anticipate it is going to work. Now, part of the problem that you run into when you're doing something like this is that these techniques do take up a lot of random access memory, RAM. So you may find that your program is going to do what my program is doing, which is struggle with this a little bit. So you just have to be calm, and you have to just play the little game with it and wait and see what it does, and it will ultimately get there eventually. And I don't know whether this is going to prove to be the answer to what I'm looking for, but it's coming back. Here it's coming back now, and it's working on this. So give it a second to do its thing, and we'll see what it does. It's got colors here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the color. It's going to be 30 right now, but I'm going to bring it down to 2 because I only want this thing to be in 2 colors. But I want the mode to be color, and I don't even know whether this is going to work. The real problem I'm having with this is that I want it to be in. Yeah, I have a feeling that this is. Well, I'm going to let it do what it's going to do here. Let's see what happens with this. I got 2 of these things going. I don't know which one is. I don't know why I got 2. It's almost there. Give it another minute, and we'll see what happens with this when we get there. The idea behind this is I want to turn this into a drawing that I can then go in and work on using my gradient, because that's basically how I did this. So I wanted to give you an idea of how you go about tracing this if you decide, you know, or I should say converting this if you decide that you're going to just trace your character. Here we go, boundary refinement. Let's see what we get. And path smoothing, getting somewhere. Come on, come on, come on. Now watch, I have a power outage in my house and everything will go blank. Come on, baby. Let's not take all night.
That'd be the week I had last week.
Yeah, no doubt. Come on. Jeez, this is murder. I just kind of, oh, here we go. Curve fitting. See what this is doing? This is processing that image, and it's actually processing it as a color image, 30 colors. So actually, this is not what I want to do at all. But I'm actually afraid to touch it now, because if I do, it's just going to send it off into the universe again. So I'm hoping, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to drag this thing over to 2 colors, and let's see what it does. Okay, so that, okay, it's gonna, okay, possibly good. I want black and white, obviously, 2 colors, right? Black and white. Let's see what happens. And come on. Oh, here we go with the pixel clustering again. Does anybody know what a pixel cluster is?
A cluster of pixels?
That's about right.
Like all the little dots in a cluster?
That's right. How it's grouping up the pixels. The image, I'm looking at the image, and the image don't look half bad. But, you know, again, I have to limit the colors to 2. The reason that I changed this mode to color is because if I did it in grayscale, then all those white areas in here, which I'm going to color, are in grayscale. And I have to convert them all to RGB, and it becomes a pain in the neck to do that. And I'm not exactly sure how to do it otherwise. I don't see anything up here that gives me a setting that I can do that with. So I'm going with mode color to see if that is going to convert this to like RGB or something. That's what I'm hoping will happen. So it may not work. I didn't get a chance to try this afternoon before class, so I'm kind of winging this one to see how it goes.
Since it says pixel, it actually hasn't traced it yet?
It's working on it. And the reason that it's working on it was originally it traced it for 30 colors. Now I've knocked it down to 2 colors. So what it's doing is it's going in and it's resetting this up to be 2 colors. Theoretically, it should just be black and white, and that should be what I'm looking for, hopefully. And it should be then in color, which is, your guess is as good as mine as to whether that's going to give me the solution I'm looking for. But we're going to see in a minute, because it's just about done. And come on. There you go, boundary refinement. Oh, jeez. Path smoothing. Well, that was quick. That was quick. Come on, end. Yeah, that looks, it doesn't look too bad.
What?
I'm on camera.
The proof is, though, when I actually expand it. Let's see what happens. All right, come on, close. Let's go, finish. Whew, wow. I could get old watching this. Ah, curve fitting. Well, listen, this is the kind of thing that you go through when you do this. It doesn't help me at all that I have the Zoom cloud meeting going and the internet on. All these things. Okay, there you go. So now it's there. I'm going to go Object, Live, Image Trace, Expand. Boom. There you go. Look at that. Okay, now the real question is, did it do what I wanted it to do? So that's what my trace looks like. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go Object, Ungroup. Okay, so the thing that you have to understand is now I have all these objects drawn, and that's the background. I'm going to change the color of the background so that you can see what this guy looks like. And yes, okay, boom. Okay, so look, there he is. There is my traced character. So all you have to do, literally, when you're doing this is, all you have to do is draw yourself a character, nice, strong black and white lines, and scan it either. And as a matter of fact, if you don't have access to a scanner on your own, what I would do basically is I would go to Kinko's. You guys got a Kinko's or a Staples anywhere near you? They usually charge $1, 50 cents, something like that, not a lot of money to scan something for you. So I would go to Kinko's and I would scan it in at Kinko's and then bring it in and work on it. So once I've done this now, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start coming in here. I'm going to use my regular selection tool, right there. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to, oh, and let me go back to my superhero final. Okay. So in my superhero final, in my colors, watch this, window, swatches. There's my swatches. In my swatches here, I have created a series of gradients, okay? So now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on this shape here, and I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to drag another one. Alt, drag another one. How many do I got? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I don't have the time to create all of these gradients for you. I'm going to create one of them or show you how to modify them, but I want to get them all in the other file quickly. So this is the first one. There's the second one. Boom. There's the third one. Boom. There's the fourth. There's the fifth. And I'm missing one. There is the sixth. Okay. So now I'm going to select all these guys. And I'm going to go Edit, Cut. And I'm going to go to my Hero Start, Trace. There we go. And Edit, Paste. And there are my gradients. Now, notice that the moment I pasted those gradients in here, you see the gradients all appear up in here? Can you see that? Okay. So now I got my gradients, and I can get rid of them, and I still have them all up in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here with my selection tool, and I'm going to start clicking on these color areas here, and I'm going to start putting my gradients into my graphic guide. And I'm going to go through creating several of them just to quickly get a few of them going, okay? And then I'm going to start modifying them a little bit. A lot of these gradients are the same gradient, and then I just go in and I tweak them a little bit. This is the basic gradient that I use on most of my character. I use that gradient right there. I use a lot of that gradient right there on him. But like, for instance, on his arm here and on his arm there, I use that gradient right there. See what I'm doing? And if you want to take a look at the gradient, there it is. There's the gradient. It's just a linear gradient. It's white, and there's a blue that I chose for my color. And my character is just basically those two colors. And there's some red. He's got some red. And I'm just basically putting in my colors into this guy. And in certain cases, I'm going to come in and I'm going to modify the gradient. A lot of times, though, you notice that the gradient is doing kind of what I want it to do. It's kind of giving me the look that I'm looking for, a three-dimensional quality to it. This is going to be blue up here. See? I'm just going in and I'm adding color into my character where I think that color should be. It's really a lot simpler, and I'm going to zoom in on this so that you get a better look at this. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on a few of these things, like for instance this here and that there. Hold down the shift key and that there. They're going to be blue. And then this is going to be gray. These will be gray. Okay? And if I don't like the way that they're going, I can just click on one and I can change the direction of it by coming here and going like -90. Okay, actually, I'm sorry, Control Z. I got both of those selected. Let me just click on the one. I only wanted that one to go -90. Watch this, -90. Did you see it change, the direction change? So I can come in here and I can change the direction as I feel I need to on this. And in some of these cases, I am doing that. Like, for instance, here, I think I want that to be -90. Right now it's 0. I think I want that to be -90. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe 90. Let's try 90. I think that's even better. Yeah, I kind of like that a little bit better. So his chin sort of sticks out a little bit. On the side of his head, again, that would be gray. So all I'm doing really is I'm building this guy piece by piece, and I'm using gradients on him. And a lot of times, since I'm using these small pieces, I don't really have to play around with the view, fit, artboard, and window. I don't really have to do all that much to start making him look pretty solid. What do you think?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And again, if you want to play around with the gradients, like for instance, click here, and I put that gradient in there. Okay? Now, see how that gradient goes from left to right? Let's say I want that gradient to go from here to here. What I can do is I can zoom in on this, okay? And I can also come over here and click on the gradient tool. Now, do you see the gradient tool? That's what the gradient tool looks like. The gradient is dark over here and it's light over there. I want to change the direction of that. I can come out here. You see that rotation?
Yep.
Okay, I can click on that and I can drag that rotation down to vertical, okay? And then I can click on the entire gradient bar and bring the gradient bar up like that. And I can get a gradient a little bit more like that. And if I want to drag this down a little bit, so I've completely changed the direction of that gradient. And if I want to, if I don't like that shape or that direction, again, come in here and I can drag that over like that. And then I can maybe drag this over that way and actually like that a little bit better. Okay? So there's a couple of ways that you can play around with gradients here. And one of those ways is to use the actual gradient tool over here, or when you have the gradient palette out, which is very important that you have the gradient palette out. Image trace I'm done with. Any questions about image trace, what I did with this image trace?
No questions about the image trace.
Basically okay with that?
I'm good.
I just have one question.
Sure, go right ahead.
When I click on my gradient tool,
yeah,
it doesn't come up anymore.
First of all, you have to have a gradient selected, and then you click on the gradient tool and it'll come up. If you don't have a gradient selected, your tool won't come up. There has to be a gradient already selected.
Yeah, I was trying to work on it, messing around with gradients today, and I had the gradient selected.
Yeah.
But in the beginning it was coming up, but then after it just would not come up anymore. And I kept clicking on it and double clicking and just trying everything I could think of, and it wouldn't come up. Also, my wand, not that it really matters now, but my wand doesn't work either.
Which wand?
The little wand underneath your
This
yes.
magic wand, yeah, who cares?
Okay.
I never
All
use
right.
the thing. I never use
Okay.
it. I don't know. You know, I never use it at all. I use it in Photoshop. I don't use it in here.
Okay.
It's
That's
just
good.
not something that I use in here, you know. But the gradient tool should work. And again, the whole idea behind this is to use your selection tool to select the shape that you want. Now, again, it's important for you to understand you need to create some gradients. So I'm going to create one more gradient here just to make sure that you know how to create a gradient. So I've created that gradient right there, but I'm going to change that gradient. I'm going to make that gradient kind of a, oh, I don't know, I'm going to go to the drop-down menu and I'm going to make this RGB, and I'm going to say instead of white, I'm going to make it yellow, okay? And then instead of black, I'm going to make it a darker green color, like that, okay? So again, I just now click on the gradient here and drag it in, and now I have that gradient.
Okay.
All right? So I just want to show you that that's one of the ways that you can make a gradient. You know, you can come in and make a gradient by just selecting the gradient palette and putting different colors into it. And that's one of the first things that you're going to want to do. When I created my character, I created that blue color for part of his body. I use a basic black and white gradient for the rest, and I have red for a couple of areas where I put some detail in. But that's basically the only thing. This gradient that I created was nothing more than just a demonstration of how to do that, okay? Making sure that you're absolutely clear as to how to do that. Are there any questions about anything that you've seen me do so far with my character? Because remember now, it's going to be your turn to go in and play around with a character. And I just wanted to show you that, you know, it's really not that difficult to do. And you can control your gradient very easily. Like I'm looking at this gradient right now. I'm going to go to the View menu, and I'm going to go Hide Edges. Now, that's still selected. And if I come over here and I click on this little diamond in the middle, I can extend my gradient over. You see how I'm making it darker over there? I think that's probably a good thing to do with that particular area. So I'm going to change that gradient some. These are kind of the things that you're going to do when you create stuff like this. I come over here and click on this, and again, I'm going to put the gradient into it. Notice that these are individuals, so they all have to be applied one at a time. See? And it, you know, this is also, if I'm going to make that, maybe make that look green. That looks kind of cool. I'm just playing now. I'm just actually playing with this. Now that there, what I might, now actually I like it because it goes dark to light. That makes sense. This goes dark to light. What I might do is I might actually extend that a little bit. Yeah, and I like that better. But can you get a sense of how quickly you can turn this into a pretty realistic looking rendering just using gradients when you have a character like this?
Yep.
And that's all I'm doing. I'm not fussing over it a lot. If I want, I can hold down the Shift key and I can select all four of them, and I can play around with the gradient on that as well. And then I can click here, hold down the Shift key here, and hold down the Shift key for that little piece, and I can apply that gradient there. Again, do the same thing where I actually hold that and drag it over and continue building my character. And I don't know, maybe I'll put a gray gradient on the outside edge of that. That looks kind of cool. Okay? And I just keep building my character a little bit at a time with the elements. Remember now, I got interior parts of his body right here, right here, right here. That's an interior element. Interior element. In other words, that's a costume under his hard shell. So that's where the blue goes, right?
Yep.
My point? And add that color there. And I don't know, it's not selecting. Let me see why it's not selecting. What's it doing? Let's go View, Show Edges. Okay? And now you can come in here and click on it again. There we go. See how it's selected? Can you see
Yep.
it's selected? Then you hit it with the color, and boom, there you go. All right? View, fit artboard in window. And there you have them, you know. And I mean, he really comes together pretty quick, don't you think? And then I just keep going through here and deciding where I want my colors to go. And that's really all there is to it. It's really not hard at all. So you don't have to have as much detail on your character as I have, but in the end, I almost think that by having this much detail, it actually works to your benefit. Because if you take a look at mine, what makes mine so interesting is the fact that there's all this detail, and I can put all these gradients in a little at a time, and it makes it all the more interesting, don't you think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So think about that when you do it. Decide on your character, and remember that if you're going to use gradients, and I do recommend you use gradients because, to be honest with you, I think gradients work great with superheroes. For some reason, the costuming and all that just screams out gradients. So I definitely recommend that you consider doing the gradients. So I'm done, but before I go, I just want to ask you a final question. Do you think you're comfortable with the gradients? Do you need any other dialogue on the gradients? You good with it? You understand what I did? Is it throwing you at all?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah?
I think I got it.
Okay. Okay. Any final questions from you?
Yeah, I have a kind of a lame question, I think, but where do you find a character like that that's not online to trace it?
Your best bet is to find it online. I think I found him online.
Oh,
you can also go buy a comic. Is there a store where you can buy comics?
Library.
Yeah, go to the library. There you go. Go to the library and grab a couple of comics and take a look for a nice big image to trace. Get yourself some tracing paper. Get yourself a couple of fine point markers. One tip when you're drawing this, make sure that you give yourself some nice heavy lines. Don't make your lines too thin and weak. And try to keep your drawing clean. And also connect your areas. Because if you don't connect areas, see that area right there?
Yep.
Can you see it's not connected?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's not connected, it's going to select, and that whole area is going to select, and I'm going to put a gradient in that whole area. Now, this area here is a separate area. I can put a gradient on that, and you see how I get that great look like it's a separate piece? So keep in mind, it's very important when you do the rendering on this, that the areas that do not connect, where you have lines like this that do not connect, they're going to interact with these other areas. Areas that are completely outlined will create a separate shape. Here's another area that's not connected. When I click on it, the whole thing selects. When I put a gradient in on it, I get a gradient based on that whole selection. Here's another one. Click on it, put a gradient in it, I get a gradient on that whole selection because they're open areas. That was a decision I made. And I'm telling you to make sure that you make those decisions. Here, this area, both of them select. Put a gradient in on it. This area, on the other hand, is a separate area. When I put a gradient in on it, I get a different looking gradient. You see how it looks different slightly?
Yeah.
And if I want, I can click on that gradient, come up to my gradient palette, and change the direction of the gradient to give me something like that, which doesn't quite work. Let's try 45. There we go. 45 is actually what I want. This thing's in the way again. There it is. Check it out. That's what I'm looking for. See? There's highlight over here, and it goes into shadow over there. So that's the key. That's the whole thing. I'm done. I don't want to keep you all night. If you don't have any more questions, good luck with your projects.
I have a question.
Huh? Yeah, sure.
Okay. Can we try and make our own superhero, or do you want us to trace it?
No. I'm trying to give you an easy out.
Okay.
Creating a superhero by tracing is an easy out. I'm trying to make it easy on you. If you want to draw your own superhero, please do. Take the time and do it. But if you want an easy out, if you want to get this thing done quickly without a lot of heartbreak, and I do what I did, create a tracing. I'm not going to be mad if you do that. I want to see something really nice. And I think actually what you're seeing here starts to look pretty good, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And it was really not that difficult to do. So that's the important thing. So really, don't worry about it. If you want to trace it, you trace it. If you don't want to trace it, draw it yourself. I welcome you doing that.
Okay, well, I'm going to try it, and if it doesn't work, then I'll go to trace.
That's fine. That's fine. And I'm not going to knock you if you try it. I mean, I'll give you credit for trying. At least it shows that, you know, you've got some guts. That's what I want to see. No guts, no glory, people. Remember that.
That's the truth.
That is the truth. Okay? So it was great having you all. You've been great. I hope I did this clear enough to make your work that you're going to do okay. And you know what to do if you have any problems, any issues, call me, okay?
Do we need to make a background for him?
What?
Do we need to do an outline of a background or something?
You don't have to do an outline for a background. It would be great if you put some kind of a background in. You could use a bitmap for a background if you want, or you could create some kind of background. That's up to you. Yes, he should have a background of some kind, but if you want to use a bitmap for something like that, cool. I have no problem with that. Use your imagination. Be creative.
Oh,
Can if it's a human face, can we do it in the pop art style?
Sure.
Awesome.
Cartoonish, pop art, whatever you like. I'm telling you, be creative. That's what I want to see. I want to see creativity.
All right.
all right. Sounds like fun.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. You have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.